Hi, I'm Juhber and welcome to my AFK cocoa farm tutorial. I've divided the video into two parts, which hopefully makes it more convenient. First, I'm going to give an overview of how the farm works, and then I'm going to show you how to build it. So I designed this farm to be able to produce cocoa beans while fully AFK without a single piece of bone meal. I don't want to have a bone meal income, and I don't want to have to set a timer to come replant cocoa every 20 minutes. I want to set up in my cocoa farm, go to sleep, and wake up with stacks on stacks of cocoa. For cookies, brown dye, fake poo, whatever it is you want the cocoa beans for. The farm can be enabled or disabled using the lever here. The light will indicate the current state of the farm, on for on and off for off. This works by having an immovable block right here and shoving another block here to prevent the minecart go signal from reaching the minecart. The farm will still harvest and store any cocoa beans if it is turned off. The switch is just to make sure that the minecart is in the right place whenever the player shows up. To use the farm, the player intending to AFK will enter through the door here and jump into the minecart. It is better to have one stack of cocoa beans and to block all of the other slots in your inventory like this, but neither of those things are required. You technically could start with a single cocoa bean and eventually you'd get to a whole stack, but that sounds terrible. Blocking off the extra inventory slots will ensure that you only get the necessary cocoa in your inventory to replant the farm while storing the rest. But again, eventually you would get stuff in storage doing it the other way, but it'll take way longer. Once in the minecart, you should hold your 1 to 64 cocoa beans in your right hand, unless you're left-handed, in which case you are a demon by 1800 standards, but this channel does not discriminate, so just put your beans in your main hand. Now it comes time to make a choice, one of 4 options. Option 1, you can hold down the left mouse button manually. But why? That kind of defeats the purpose of an AFK farm, but you do you. Option 2, you can tape or otherwise fasten your mouse so the left button stays depressed. Option 3, you can use some sort of macro to keep your left mouse button pressed, or you can choose option 4, the one that I use. Minecraft has a probably unintentional feature where if you hold a button down, then press F3 and T at the same time to reload your resource packs, and then let go of the button while this loading screen is up, then your button is held down forever, or until you press it again. No matter how you get your button held down, the next step is to, while still holding the beans, look at this button and then look to your left at the ice. And then stand up, walk away, and come back hours later to all the cocoa you've ever wanted. Because after you press the button, the minecart will begin moving along the track, and assuming you've aimed your cocoa planter the correct direction, you will plant all 64, or less, cocoa beans on the conveniently placed jungle logs. You will go back and forth several times, and then eventually you will reach the end and be brought all the way back around to the beginning, where you will wait empty-handed for the beans to grow. I have my farm set to harvest once a day using a daylight detector, but if you wanted to harvest more often, and you have your own clock or timer you'd rather use, or maybe the Etho Hopper clock, I will show you where to hook that up to the farm later in the video. Whenever the daylight detector detects that it is time to harvest the beans, it will send a signal to this piston, which moves the soul sand into place, activating the bubble column, which activates all the observers controlling the bean harvesting mechanism, which is a piston observer combo that pushes the logs and then immediately pushes them back into place. The beans fall down to the swatter stream, get pushed into these hoppers, and then hoppered into this dropper. The dropper starts spitting the beans into the bubble column, which travels up into the waiting arms of the AFK player. Whenever the beans first enter the dropper, it outputs a signal which moves an item, any item, from this dropper into this next one, and then whenever the dropper is empty again, it moves the item, any item, into this hopper, which outputs a signal to tell the minecart that the AFK player is sitting in to start moving again. The reason for that whole switch is to ensure that the player remains in place while all of the cocoa beans are delivered. This is important because if the player leaves too soon, they wouldn't have enough beans to replant. And then the AFK farm either wouldn't work anymore, or at least it would be way less efficient. No bueno. Theoretically, this system will continue this cycle forever. Well, until the heat death of the universe anyways. The beans can occasionally land on the track, but because the player passes by almost immediately after harvest, these beans will be picked up rather than despawning, so our precious efficiency is retained. And on to the next part of the video, the part where I talk about how to build the farm. There will also be a list of materials down in the description. To start with, we are going to build the brain. This is the part of the farm that handles all of our timing. This is also where you would install a different timing device if desired. You would remove these 4 blocks and input your timing signal into this target block. It is important to note that these are droppers, not dispensers. After the brain, we'll just build the spine, I guess? I don't think the anatomy metaphor is going to make it much farther. This is a water stream for moving the cocoa beans and triggering the harvest mechanism, and this is the redstone signal for sending off the minecart when it is time to replant. Next, we built the cocoa bean collection mechanism. It's a water stream and some hoppers. This is a cocoa bean harvester. It will eject all the cocoa beans whenever the brain tells it that it is time. Our replanting track will keep the player moving at the right level and at the right speed to replant all of the cocoa beans and then bring them all the way back around to await the next delivery of beans. These 2 glass walls are intended to ensure the cocoa beans fall into the collection area. The storage area doesn't have to go right here. As long as you have these 2 hoppers, you can run a hopper line basically anywhere you want. The player interface is where the player enters the minecart to AFK, and also where the player has the option to disable the farm. You have to fill the bubble column up with water source blocks, and there are a couple of ways to do that. You can place buckets up the whole thing, you can place regular ice and then break it, or you can place a single source block at the top and then place kelp up the entire thing. But remember, no water source blocks, no bubbles. And then you're all done. You can go out and start your chocolate empire. Thanks for watching my video, and if you like the humor and the style of this video, you should subscribe and go watch my SMP series. I put a lot of time and work into it. Have a great week, everyone. See ya!